Ethics Chapter 26. This chapter follows a student doing a media project with a photographer for a gallery in Savannah, Georgia. The student's project involved interviewing people from a marginalized community and telling their stories. This task was not easy for her, though, as she struggled with how to best approach telling these people's stories. The question that came up a lot was, quote, "Who am I to tell this story?" Ultimately, the project progressed, and the student interviewed a number of different people from the community. The student operated with the knowledge that these people had very different backgrounds from her own, and she worked hard to make sure that she represented everyone fairly and with humanity. Ultimately, all of the people that were interviewed were very pleased with the result of the project. Answer to the questions. Number 1. I think that she was right to be concerned about being the right person for the project. It can be difficult to cover sensitive topics, especially if you are someone who hasn't had to deal with similar experiences. She did probably the best thing to alleviate her concerns, which was seeking counsel from an objective third party. Number 2, the approach definitely matters. I think that the best course of action when dealing with these types of issues consists of making sure that the sources feel comfortable with what is being asked of them, representing the issues fairly, and treating everyone involved with humanity. Number 3, I'm not an expert on diversity in newsrooms. However, I can imagine that the skew is roughly the same as in other industries, with minorities and women being tragically underrepresented. The way for the managers to increase the diversity in their newsrooms is quite simply to hire more diversely. It is important to have different voices represented so that all perspectives of issues can be heard, as well as to make sure that no community ever feels marginalized or taken advantage of by the operations of the newsrooms. Percentages of different groups of people with college degrees truthfully has very little to do with the lack of diversity in any field, even the news. I'm more ethical after having read this chapter because it covers a topic that I don't believe is talked about enough. As a person in media, we have to be very mindful of how we cover certain issues. The last thing that we would want to do is offend someone by trying to share their story through our work. The issue of how to cover certain issues, or if we should even cover them at all, is something that we haven't really talked about yet in our degree. And I think that this chapter did a very good job at providing some basic guidelines to go off of, as well as making me think about the potential consequences of covering certain topics poorly. Thanks.